Miguel, how you doing today, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. Danny, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Well, almost, man. I'm about to sip this coffee,
That's right.
get the day starting.
That
Yeah,
jolt.
Uh,
Get that jolt.
yep.
But hey, Danny, man, I just want to say I love what you guys are doing, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, and um, young people need this. I love what you're
hmm
doing for them. Love what you guys are doing for them, and you, young gentlemen, I don't even know how old you guys are, but it's showing a great example of what we got to be doing. So good stuff.
yeah. That's the big thing that I started this because I'm still in kind of that younger generation. I'm not like at a later age right now. It's kind of untypical because a lot of people start podcasts and start doing that stuff later in their age, and it's cool because a lot of the listeners that we have are part of that younger generation, which I think the younger generation is probably one of the most important generations that need to have this kind of influence. So, especially with your kind of content and the stuff that you're doing and stuff that this whole platform is doing is an incredible way for us to influence that generation and to make an impact so then they can have, a prosperous life and make the right direction in their life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
that's incredible.
yeah, and Miguel, what made you do it? I mean, you could probably just, I'm pretty sure like other guys out there, just work hard, keep doing you, but not post any of this stuff. What made you want to like, hey man, I want to post this on YouTube, Instagram, I want to start doing these videos. What really made you want to do that?
Yeah, good question. So when I was 14 years old, actually 13 years old, I was diagnosed with a disease in my intestines. It was called ulcerative colitis, and it was a battle. It was a journey to get healed. There was no cure for it. I was supposed to have it until my intestines just rotted away, and I developed into colon cancer. And so when I was 14, we heard about this alternative treatment in Mexico. And so me and my mom went over to Mexico in this little small clinic, and they had alternative treatments that were just imagine the way that people were treated before medicine was ever invented, right? Like they
Mm.
use like ice bath type stuff, mud, organic foods, just all these different sort of remedies and stuff like that. So, however, in the process of that, I was probably at an all time low because I was not only sick, but I was homesick. I was mentally sick. And my mom was reading this book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And she was like spitting out some nuggets to me as she was reading it. And I'm just like hearing this stuff like, this is amazing. Like, I've never heard stuff like this before. Like, my background is like poor, poor mindset, toxic environment. And so I'm hearing stuff like the importance of setting goals and importance of like making a vision board, the importance of believing in things even when it's not favorable, even when you have no business believing in something, you believe in it anyways. And so I read the book myself, and then I started reading more books, and then started watching speakers on YouTube. Like my first and still favorite to this day is Les Brown,
Mm.
and the message that he gave, and other speakers like him, it changed my life. So I always say I was healed mentally, then I was healed physically. So my time there in Mexico was only 6 weeks, and I was cured, and I was supposed to have this for the rest of my life. And to this day, man, I'm healthy as a horse. But at that point, I knew. So I already was chasing a football dream. But at that point, I knew like speaking to people, like helping out the next sick kid in a hospital bed, told that their dream was over, or helping out a kid in juvie, or even a grown person in jail or prison, thinking that their life is over, thinking that there's any sort of limitations over their life. I want that voice. I want to be that person to help them. And so I know I also needed to be the example. And so I went on and lived my life. I played college football and started up a business training athletes, and that turned out to be pretty successful. And so at that point, around last year, I was 25, I'm 26 now, is when I wanted to start my podcast and my speaking career. But I kind of allowed my podcast to develop my speaking career, as in like stuff going viral, gaining more followers, so people would kind of know who I am and see my speaking style. And so that's how it's gone. That's how it's worked. I've had people reach out to me to give speeches solely from my social media. And so my main goal is to, like, social media is cool and all, but that was never what I cared about. You know, the every clip you guys see on my podcast or on my social media is from my podcast. Like, there's no single time where I'm just like putting a phone or camera up to my face and I upload that little, 30-second charge. It's actually from a full episode from my podcast. The whole point of this is to get people to go to my podcast and be longtime listeners, listen to every episode, and also for people to hire me to give speeches. And so that's what got me into it. It's just the vision to help people break limitations over their life.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, man. I mean, I'm from Mexico myself too. So one of the, and you were totally right about that. Like I feel like us Latin Americans, we really is like we need to go to the hospital if it's like a whole must. Because I know my mom would be like, "Oh no, you're fine. Get some Vaporru," or "Hey, try this tea," or "Hey, come over here. You need to smell this." And she's cooking something up, and it smells really bad. And she's like, "No, we can't really spend money because as an immigrant." I definitely understand that on limitations, whole 100%. I'm an immigrant myself, so I knew that I needed to work a lot 10 times harder than that person next to me because I know he has papers. I know that he can just graduate and he'll be fine. He's got a social and everything like that. Me, during that time, during school, I knew that, yeah, I need to study, I need to get A's. But at the same time, I had this on the back of my head. What's the point of me going to school? What's the point of me graduating? What's the point of me going to college and not be able to even have a job because I have this social? I don't have a social. So, I was like, what's something that I can do, work on without having that? So one of the things for me was soccer. So that's one of the things. And I think ever since I was just a little kid, man, I always just didn't like to lose. I don't know what it was. I didn't like to lose. I always wanted to have the best things for me. And I think, we come from the same things that our parents taught us, like a poor mindset. My mom was always like, no, those are a little bit too expensive. And I would know that, okay, yeah, we don't have that kind of money. So, what I would do is I would crush cans. I would, recycle, do stuff like that, get water bottles. I would buy chips. I would sell them. I was that kid in middle school. So I definitely understand, wanting to break those limitations. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that, especially on the immigrant side, is that lots of them, and I know my friend was one of them. He knew that he couldn't, he couldn't obtain papers, but, his parents brought him over here to the U.S. because where he was from, he was in Tijuana. And, in Tijuana, it's very, 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 very dangerous to be in. It's like one of the worst cities to be in the world. And there was just a lot of mass killings and stuff like that. So he came from that type of environment, came over here, and it did kind of affect him a little bit mentally because he would, kind of not want to take shit from anybody. So he would always get into like fights and stuff like that. He just hung out with the wrong crowd. So with him, he even told me, he's like, dude, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't want to do this. I feel like I have a good life now, but how do I change? So I think that's my question for you is how does that process start? Because everybody knows, like, yeah, we need to change it. But how does that process start for you to change yourself mentally?
Right. The first thing I'd say is, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. But the first thing is you got to stop making excuses, because we all know people who have made it to the top who come from all sorts of different demographics. Like, we got to throw excuses out the window of what we have and what we don't have. At the end of the day, we all made it to Earth. The odds of that are 1 in 400 trillion, right? So we made it. We're the miracle that got us shot, and we have a chance every single day. And so step one is just throw the excuses out the window. Step two is really have a time with yourself and discover what are the things that you need to change from within. Right? Like, look in the mirror and be like, how do people view me? Like, if I were looking at myself from the third party, how do I speak to people? What do I do on my free time? Right? Those two right there will tell you, am I lazy? Am I a procrastinator? Right? Am I a gossiper? right? All these things. So you got to develop, understand what you need to change within yourself. So those are it right there, man, because people think that they need to jump right into this millionaire work ethic, but it's just like, hold on now, because everything that I just named will catch up with you, right? The excuses, eventually they'll catch up with you and be like, oh, well, it's all right. Like, I come from this background, so, I've probably already done more than what's been expected of me. And then the character within, right? Like you gotta pull things out from the roots of what's the start of all this? What's the root of these situations, of these problems? Then it comes down to the three pillars I have for success, man, which is you got to believe, in yourself, you got to believe that you're capable of doing all these things, and then you have to be disciplined, right? Because motivation runs out. We all know that. So you got to be disciplined. Discipline is doing the things you don't feel like doing, but you do it anyway, right? It's doing what's required. And then the third thing is consistency. You don't have to be extraordinary. You just have to do the ordinary things extra, right? You just got to continuously be consistent with everything, right? It's like the story of the turtle and the rabbit. What is it?
The turtle and the rabbit and
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like the tortoise and the something, right?
Yeah.
But the rabbit, the bunny, whatever, takes off, and then the turtle is just consistent. Just consistent. Like, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going, and ends up winning, right? Because the rabbit slacks and gets arrogant and gets too cocky, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what it is, man. Is you got to be consistent with all these things, and you got to believe, and you have to be disciplined.
Mm. I think a lot of people, think that people were born that way too. And it's a very weird thing to see because a lot of people will see the greats of this world, professional athletes, really successful people, and, super popular people that you see in society that have left their mark. And they think, oh, I can never become that kind of person because they were born that way, or they had this certain genetic gift. And I'm like, at the end of the day, everyone, you know, is here with the exact same kind of qualifications to reach that success. And no matter what situation, a lot of people that have been in very difficult situations in their life have achieved amazing things. So it's difficult for people to kind of wrap their head around that and say, wow, this person came from nothing and built an amazing life just from themselves and from the influences that they had and the environment that they were put in. So a lot of people need to realize that you can do exactly the things as you mentioned to become the person that you want to be.
That's so on point, Jackson. And to get even deeper, I have a podcast episode coming out tomorrow saying you were born capable. And so we're going to get some exclusive content here, but it's the way we were born. Yes, we're all born the same, but to get even deeper, the way that we were born, we were born relentless. Like, imagine a baby when a baby comes out, like a baby's just like roaring, right? Just crying. And what does a baby do when they want something? They cry, right? They're gonna cry and cry until they get what they want, and they come out just go getters, right? Like they want to do everything right then, right now. Like we as parents, adults, have to keep them safe from themselves because they're so tenacious,
Mm-hmm.
right? So our human nature, like we are born demanding what we want. We're born wanting to go get whatever we want, even if it's crawling off the bed, which could kill us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're born relentless, but then we're just taught to relent, right? Like life kind of teaches us to be safe. Hey, like let's not do that, reel it back. And that's fine and all, it keeps us alive. But eventually it trickles into our, young adult years to where now we just always want to play it safe, right? We don't want to be risk takers. And then we just think that we've become this limited, narrow-minded, scared, full of fear type individual when really it's just like, man, not only do you have what it takes, but you were born with what it takes.
I think a lot of people, especially younger generation and people nowadays, really need that idol. And I don't think many people have that kind of idol in their life to kind of visualize, especially with all the kind of, influence and the people that you see nowadays. There's not most of the people that are like super, famous, for example, aren't necessarily in that kind of position. You see musicians, you see all these different people, but I think a lot of people need to find that kind of idol for them. For me, one of my greatest idols was Kobe Bryant, and just the way he played his game, his progress, his life, his story is incredible. So I think a lot of people need that idol, and I think you yourself could also be an idol to those people as well, and to many others.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my idol was his. A lot of people don't know about him, but his name is Bruce Irvin. He was a defensive player for the Seattle Seahawks, and because so for me playing college football, it was going to be a different route. Like I was that story of like the really good player who senior year tore his shoulder, got hurt, it's all over, and so I researched. I'm like, man, what can I do now? So I went through some dark times, went through like a drinking phase, and then once I picked myself up, I'm like, man, what can I do now? And then Bruce Irvin, his story is he was, I mean, he got into trouble and stuff like that in high school, and he dropped out. And then someone in his life was just like, man, like get your life together, like go get your GED and make something of yourself. So he got his GED, and then he enrolled into a community college in California, did football for that community college, did so good. He got a scholarship offer to West Virginia University. Did so good. After only 1 year there, he was drafted in the first round to the Seahawks.
Wow.
And so he just showed me that there's a way. There's another way. That's all I needed. All I needed was just like to know that there's another way. And then boom, I'm essentially followed the same path. Went to a community college, three different ones, but ended up getting a scholarship offers to universities, and finished at a small private school at Willamette University down here in Oregon. And so, yeah, essentially he was my idol. Like he's someone that taught me, man, there's another way. And so that's why I'm in this, man. I want to be, I don't see it as an idol, but I want to see just that person that can help these people who just don't know another way, right? Who don't know what to do, or feel a certain way, feel limited, feel just crippled by their environment. And so that's why I'm here.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. One of the things, one of the videos that I saw on yours were like, it was the one where you were basically saying, you don't want to have that regret, of like you seeing that, man, I could have done that, but I wasted my time doing this, and then me saying, well, oh well, oh well, too bad, so sad, could have, should have, would have, and I think a lot of people don't know that, when you're young in your 20s, you're probably going to be at the best shape of your life, the best looking in your life. And one of the things that I hugely stand by was, I always forget the quote, was this Roman guy. He said, you basically gotta treat your body like a temple, because if you don't use your full capacity, then you'll never see what type of power you'll get until it's too late. So right now, when you're young and you're hungry and stuff like that, or like let's say you're young but you're wasting it, you're eating a lot of junk food, you're getting overweight, or you're wasting your stuff with like doing drug addictions and stuff like that. You could be looking the best of your life, taking care of your skin, getting a good haircut. I think it also I think also being mentally disciplined also comes from being confident in yourself and how good you look. I feel like that's a big part. So I remember my friend, he was like, dude, he's like, I'm just so sad and stuff like that. I was like, hey, I want you to do this. I was like, I need you to find an idol. And I was like, and I need you to get into shape. I was like, get a good haircut that you like, do that. And in 3 months, come back to me and let me know if you're still feeling the same way. So he didn't really have he was that type of guy who just had big like hair and everything like that. He didn't really take good care of his skin. He would always be drinking soda, never like water or anything like that. He basically changed all his stuff. He got into jiu-jitsu. I told him, oh, you can try jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a really good disciplined sport. He tried that. Now he's competing and stuff like that. So he got into he got into a good shape. He's like, man, he's like that's exactly what I needed, man. I was like, as soon as I saw myself from that person to now, I was like, I love myself. And then now I want to do a lot more better because I just feel good and I look good. So and that gave me the confidence. So I feel like for some people, they just need to find some sort of confidence in them, whether it's how you look or something that you're really good at that some people aren't, and just find that confidence and find something to start with.
Yeah, man. Going back to the video, right, about regret. Yeah, something I say often is I'd rather say, oh, well, than what if, right? Because I'd rather try, give it my all, and fail. And that's where you say, oh, well, I tried. Then what if I would have just taken that shot, right? What if I would have taken advantage of my youth? What if I would have gotten in great shape? What if I would have done all these great things? What if I would have gone after my dreams and my goals? What if I would have just went for it, even with the possibility of me failing, right? The what ifs, I feel like, are why middle-aged men kill themselves more than most people, right? That's a true stat. Is the people who take their own lives are mostly middle-aged men. And so I feel like it's because they look back on that what if, right? Because you can't do anything about that, right? There's nothing, you can't go back in the past. And so, yeah, I've always been that type of person to where I have fear, but my fear is what drives me, right? I have that fear of never even taking that chance and doing the what ifs. And there's so many things I've done in my life where I've gotten advice from everybody to not do it. But I was just like, look, I can't live with that what if, My son was born when I was still in community college. And so everybody was like, man, stop playing football. It's time to just get a job and just raise a family, do the full-time thing. But in my mind, I was just like, well, I can do all of them, right? Like I can work and provide, and I can go play football, especially since I was sharing custody and all that. It's the time I don't have them, I can go get it. I can go grind. And so I've just never been of the mindset of never taking that chance. I always took the chance because my favorite quote of all time is by T.S. Eliot. And he says, those willing to risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Right? We all want to find out how far we can go, but how did the quote start? Those willing to risk going too far. There's got to be that risk. Everything can't be perfectly set up. It can't be a for sure win. There has to be risk. There has to be the possibility of you failing. And maybe it's huge. Maybe it's a very slim chance that you'll succeed, but it's just man, I'm trying to find out how far I can go. And I'm extremely grateful that I always took those opportunities and took those chances. And so, yeah, man, that's kind of the more deeper, I guess, reasoning behind that video, right? Of I'd rather say, oh, well, than what if.
Right.
And the risk of it all is what creates that value for it in the first place. Without that risk, there's no value. That's if everyone could become a multimillionaire, everyone would take that route to become a multimillionaire. But it's the struggle, it's the risk of actually going there that makes it worth it, that makes it have that value. And another thing with that is a lot of people will, have this thought of they might already be on that journey, they might already be on that path, or kind of have an idea of how to be on that path already. They are just having the problem of thinking, is this actually going to work out? And they're starting to kind of doubt the possibilities of it in the first place. So how do you think people can get over that kind of doubt of not having it work out in their favor?
Yeah, well, confidence comes from hard work and preparation, but also understand you'll be more comfortable with doubt when you understand that there's always going to be doubt. Like there's always going to be doubt. And like you said, we touched on the importance of risk, and like the risk aspect is understanding that these doubts that you're having, they may be real, like they may be valid, but it's doing it anyways, right? And that's courage. And so courage is just understanding that there's all these limitations, that there's all these roadblocks, that there's all these potential failures, but you do it anyways, right? And then, but if you're doing everything necessary, right? Like if there's a quote on preparation, is that if you there's 5 P's I heard from somebody, is poor preparation plans for poor progress, right? And so if you are prepared, if you're preparing, if you're doing everything necessary, that's where that confidence is going to come from, right? That you're going to just go after it with all you got, because it's just like, man, I may not feel ready for this, but I've been doing everything necessary. Like Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant didn't just go out to a court and put up 40 points, 50 points, that one night 80 points. He didn't just go out and do that. He prepared for it, right? You never rise to the occasion. You always shrink to the level of your preparation. How hard did you prepare, right? Can you do this with your eyes closed, right? And so that's what it comes down to, man, is there's always going to be that doubt, but your confidence will grow the more that you prepare, and the more that you just go out there and do it anyways, and you fail and you keep going and you fail. Like the doubt's always going to be there, but like I always say, life has a test of like who really wants it, right? Like who really wants this. And so what life does is like, okay, you say you want this, but let me throw out these obstacles to you, right? Let me throw out these things that will get a lot of people to turn back. But it's the people who just jump over those obstacles or get knocked down and get back up and keep going, right? Those are the people who withstand all that and actually succeed, right? Or get a lot further than most people. It's the ones who go through it anyways, man, who go through that doubt, because it's always going to be there. Yes, you'll gain confidence as you go, but yeah, man, there's no magic pill. But I mean, me personally, like everything that I've wanted in my life, I've always believed it. And yes, doubt creeps in, but I always just take myself back. Like I use like words of affirmation, like, no, I'm going to play college football. I'm going to be an NCAA athlete. Or like now it's like, I'm going to be the world's most sought after speaker. I'm going to be this, I'm going to do that. And so all this negativity creeps into our mind, and we're surrounded by negativity because we live in a negative world. But you have to be that positive reinforcement for yourself. You know, you gotta overpower it with that positivity and with those affirmations. But yeah, man, that doubt's always going to be there, but it's the courageous ones that are going to do it anyways.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to explain, especially the preparation part. Because I definitely understand that. I remember when I used to have my doubts too on a lot of things, and for me it was Muay Thai. So I did Muay Thai, and because I'm a short dude, bro. I'm short, so I know that I gotta find some way, if I ever get in a situation that, God forbid, I never do, and I hope I don't, but I'm able to defend myself, because I know at the end of the day, there's evil men, like evil people out there, but that's besides the point. So, and because I just wanted to do it because I know it was fun and it was good for discipline, and it was good, and I know it was a good exercise. And I know for me, I get bored when I lift weights, so I wanted to do something that keeps me in shape and something that's cool and fun. So that's what I found. So I did Muay Thai, and I would always be, sparring against taller dudes than me, like super taller dudes than me. And, I would always, in sparring, I'd always be like, dang, I just prepared for this. He told me, hey, 1, 2, slip, and then, throw your straight. but I just wasn't doing it because when you're in that moment, you're getting punched and like that. You're doubting yourself like that. So then my coach was even telling me, he's like, dude, I think you're just doubting yourself or something like that. I don't know. Like you're doing it so good with the pads, but right when it comes down to the sparring, it's like as soon as you get hit, you just go on defense and you just don't want to do it. So then I'm all like, yeah, he's like, right. I'm just doubting myself. So I started, do it, practice it. And then I started seeing myself doing it, So sometimes, just try it. And if you're failing, keep trying it, because there's something that is guaranteed when you don't try is failure. That is the guarantee. If you don't try it, you will fail. That is the guarantee. Now, I think that when you try and you win, trying is the guarantee that you might win. So I hope I'm putting it into the right words on how I thought it. So I knew that, so what, if I fail and keep failing, but if I get it, then I'll feel cool. I feel amazed. So as soon as I got past that little doubt on that first, and I started, really using what they were teaching me, planning and preparing before, the sparring and everything, then I started getting my confidence in. And then now it just basically just went up from there. I started to be a lot more better, and they were like, dude, you're getting a whole lot better. And I was like 17 years old, going against, 25-year-olds and up, like people, like guys who are competing like on a high level in Muay Thai. And even my coach was all like, dude, do you want to, compete and stuff? But the MMA stuff and doing all that, I was like, no, man, I don't want to be in that competitive scenery. That I was like, that's just not for me. I do this to keep in shape, and it's fun and it's cool. But it's definitely a good learning curve, and I think that was the only time that I ever had doubt in myself when I wanted to do something. But once I got past it, man, it was like a great feeling, and I felt like that really taught me for like future things that then, like you said, doubt started sneaking up on me. So on like different times in life when I was moving down here in Dallas, I was like, oh man, I don't want to be here and stuff like that. You know what? I need to. I was prepared for this. I was like, well, let me do some preparation, do it, try it until I get where I need to be happy.
Yep. Solid, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of people have that kind of feeling that, they'll also make this
Can you
whole
hear him?
No.
what?
No, can't hear you. There we go. Oh, yeah, a little laggy.
Again, bro? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What was I gonna say? Um, I think a lot of people also have that problem of finding that vision as well, and a lot of people will have the vision of success, of whatever they're trying to chase, whatever dream that they're trying to go after. They'll have that vision of that success, but many times, people will never see the positive vision in that kind of direction, and they'll have the negative instead. They'll look at all these negative experiences that could happen, like, oh, what if I said the wrong thing in this certain social interaction? What if this happened? What if this happened? And not many people have that kind of vision to vision the positive. Um, so what do you think people can do to maybe start having more of a positive vision on life and certain things in life?
Great question. Yeah, you gotta change your surroundings. Like, first of all, so before I answer that, I'd love to explain how the subconscious mind works, right? So the subconscious mind, I like to explain as like the back of your mind, right? It's like the things that we don't think about, but that we do every day. Like an example is brushing your teeth,
Mhm.
right? Like we brush our teeth more so with our subconscious mind. Like we don't really think about it. And like, for those who don't believe me, like, try brushing your teeth with your opposite hand. You're gonna think it's weird, and you're gonna like really like focus and make sure you're actually scrubbing all of your teeth. Subconscious mind is just something that has been fed, and it becomes kind of like an instinct or a character habit or a trait, right? And so I say, if you look at things more on the negative side, ask yourself, are the people in your life negative? Are they more negative than positive? Like, do they just talk crap about each other? Do they just complain and complain about everything in life, and it just somehow think that things are going to be different? Like, what are the things that you're watching, right? Like, are you watching drama series? Are you watching drama movies? And it's just like, we're watching and surrounded by all these things, yet we expect to act a different way, right? Like, it's all feeding our subconscious mind. And so now the cure, the antidote here, is to be surrounded by positive people. If you can't find them, you're better off being alone. Right? Now, within yourself, like, just by being alone, what are you watching? What are you putting into your mind that's positive? Right? Like, I don't watch much TV, but if I ever do, it's usually like a movie of a success story, right? Like 42, the movie of Jackie Robinson, like the new Kurt Warner football movie that came out a few months ago or whenever it came out. I think it was like a year ago now, but man, like, what are you feeding into your mind? And so I read a lot. Like, I read a ton, and a lot, all of it is self-help, just mind growth type stuff. And yeah, I have a very small circle. I don't have a lot of friends, and a lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but it's just like, man, in your mid 20s, it's really hard to come across positive go-getters, right? So aside from just being positive, also being productive, like, it's going to dictate who you have around and what are your habits, what are you listening to, what are you watching. And so there's a quote, birds of a feather flock together. Whoever you're surrounded by, you're all most likely going to be flying together in the same direction. But that's why my favorite animal is the eagle, the bald eagle, because they fly alone, but they also fly the highest, right? And they're known as the bird of vision. And so, yeah, that's the best way to find that positivity, is make sure you really, really watch what you're putting inside your mind, what you're feeding it, who you're around. And sometimes we can't control who we're around, like as a family or whatever, but even then, like, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're balancing it out or overpowering the negativity with positivity. And even words of affirmation. I talk about this a lot, but like, me and my son will go into the mirror and we'll say positive things about ourselves. I'm amazing. I'm capable. I'm honest. I'm hardworking. I'm disciplined. I'm the best speaker in the world. Or my son says, like, I'm the best tennis player in the world. And, it's, what are you feeding yourself, right? Because you can't expect to be positive when you just constantly feed yourself negativity or allow yourself to be fed negativity. It just doesn't work that way. So yeah, definitely we got to watch what we're feeding ourselves and the people that we're around.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that, I definitely relate to that, because I started noticing some of my friends. I'm like, man, dude, they actually don't like me. I was like, they actually really don't like me, and I was like, and they're just making fun of me. So I was alone for a good time, and I feel like being alone and being alone can sometimes be very dangerous, because then you have like this peace of mind, and you don't want people to disturb it sometimes. So yeah, I'm like that too. I have a very, very small circle. I probably have like 2-3 friends that I keep in that circle. And when I was like alone, I was just, trying to get where I needed to be and stuff like that. I found that being alone is very is very good for yourself, but it's also, I think it could be dangerous, because not in a bad way, but in like kind of like in a good way, for yourself. Because what I noticed, man, is that I'm starting to be picky with women. Like when I feel that, I'm like, oh, I love doing this, and then now I got to substitute that with your time, and it's like I don't know if I want to do that with you yet, and I think for me, it's like finding the right people to be surrounded by, because I know some of my friends were like, hey man, me and such and such, we're gonna go to this abandoned factory. We're just gonna go skate and do stuff, and we're gonna go smoke weed. I'm like, oh no, man, I'm good. I'm gonna go play soccer with these guys. So you definitely gotta surround yourself with the right people, if you want to go somewhere where you have to be. So you gotta be with that crowd. So I know if I wanted to be a pro soccer player, I wanted to be in the parks where I see the best players, and I wanted to play against them or with them, or vice versa. If it was like, hey man, I'm trying to make money, and I want to be up there in life, well, I got to stop hanging around with such and such, because he's just going to work, clocking out, and then he's not looking to really do anything else, or make more money. This guy was over here. He's driving a better car. He's dressed nice. He looks mentally, and he looks a lot more better. Let me go out over there with him. Let me hang out with him. I can learn a thing or two from him. So it's definitely changing the environment around you. And I think one of the good quotes that I heard was that there's a reason why a Bugatti has 2 seats and a bus has 30 seats. Because the people you're with, the circle's gonna get tighter and tighter once you start realizing your own goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's figuring out that kind of goal and doing everything and sacrificing, you know, to make it to that place, to that goal and to achieve it. And a lot of people are going to a lot of the obstacles that you're going to reach along the way are going to be people, and people are going to try and hold you back because they see how you're having this vision and they don't have that vision. They're jealous of you having that vision, so then they want to push you down and not let you make your way and try to chase that dream. And it's a very difficult challenge that many people have to go through. um, I guess another question, Miguel, would be, what do you think? It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but what do you think was your greatest challenge that you ever had to go through in your life?
The greatest challenge, man, there's a good amount. The greatest challenge was just probably leaving that environment of limitations, you know, um, because like my environment growing up, it was, you know, it was whatever. Like, go to school, hopefully go to college, hopefully get a good job, and hopefully get a family, and hopefully die. Like that's just the order of operation. And
Mm.
a lot of those even seem far fetched. But oh, I love this analogy. It's about training fleas inside of a jar.
Mm.
So if you have a jar, you put a flea in there, the flea's gonna hop out. And if you put it back in there, it's gonna hop out, and it's gonna keep hopping out. But if you put the flea in the jar and then put a lid over it, obviously, like, the flea's gonna try to jump out, and it's gonna hit its head on the lid and fall back down. And it keeps trying, but it keeps hitting its head. Then eventually, the flea just jumps just below where that lid is, right? So it's adapted to its limitations. Now, the crazy part is if you take the lid off, the flea still jumps just below where that lid would be. So it's adapted to its limitations. It's like, man, I'm sick of failing. I'm sick of trying. I'm sick of getting made fun of. I'm sick of being humiliated. And so it now has this limitation, right? Even though the lid's gone, like, there you can go, man. The opportunity's there. It's just like, nah, man. What if I fail, right? I'm sick of that. Now, I kind of add on to this analogy because, like, imagine a flea laying eggs, right? And then now, what do these new fleas see? They see someone jumping just below where that lid would be. So they learn that's their environment. Their environment is now limited. Maybe every now and then one flea will jump out of the jar lid and the rest of the fleas will say, oh, that guy is just lucky. He's just chosen, right? But that's how we can look at life too, right? Being in these in these limited environments, when somebody makes it big, we can just be like, oh man, they're just the one in a million. They're just the special ones, and that's not for us. But so me understanding this and understanding that essentially everything I knew growing up was a lie, right? All this was a lie. All these limitations that even teachers put over you, like it's all a lie. And so once I got to that point in my life, that's really when, like, you know, for the better part, I was unstoppable. Like, yes, hard times came, but I understood, like, man, there's no limits to life. Nothing can limit me. Nothing can hold me back. It's only the limitations now that I put over myself. And so, yeah, man, but aside from that, just hard times, like, trying to earn a college scholarship while, like, doing the whole custody thing. That was tough. Obviously, the illness that I mentioned was tough. Starting a business 3 months before the pandemic hit, that was tough. Yeah, man, a lot of tough things that really needed. And then in community college, I was homeless, right? So I didn't have my son overnights. This is before he turned 1 year old. So before he was one, I didn't have any overnights with him. And I only had him like 6 hours on Saturday, 6 hours on Sunday. And so in my mind, I'm like, look, I can cry about this, or I can really go all in on this last year to play community college football, to earn a scholarship. And so I could afford to, make the drive back and forth from my college was in Seattle, from Seattle to Portland. I could afford child support. I could afford the things that my son needed. I could afford to feed myself, but I couldn't afford a place to live. So I slept out of my car that whole season. But this is where vision comes into play, where I was just like, look, I know my eyes see not the best things right now, but my mind sees the possibilities, right? My vision is limitless. My vision sees myself getting a scholarship, having a whole apartment off campus with my son that's paid for by the university. Like, I had a great vision for all these things. And that's exactly what happened, because I saw the vision more than I saw reality in itself. And so, yeah, man, I've gone through lots of hard times during this journey, but essentially, like, that's what makes you, right? That's what molds you. And we don't understand at the time why we're going through these things, but later on, like, you'll understand. Like, I believe that it's life molding you and preparing you for what's next. So not that you get what you want, but that you have what it takes to keep it and to stay there. And so, yeah, man, lots of hard times, but my advice to people during those hard times is you got to stay focused on the vision, right? Because it's when people lack vision, that's when they give up. It's when people lack vision, that's when they're depressed. So you got to see the vision. You got to see it more than you see reality. You got to be a crazy person. You got to be psychotic when it comes to this. Like, you have to see it, because if you lose sight of it, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to hang on.
Hmm. Yeah, it's difficult to continue to have that vision, and there's going to be challenges regardless of whatever you're trying to pursue. And if it's a job, if it's a passion, if it's a challenge, if it's a dream, there's going to be obstacles along the way. And the only way that you can actually achieve it is if you go through those obstacles with just the exact vision of achieving that thing, being absolutely determined to do it regardless of the circumstances. And I think that's the vision most people need to have in anything that they want to achieve. They have to have that vision. If they don't, they're gonna hit an obstacle, they're gonna hit a brick wall, and they're gonna stop. And that's what so many people have the problem with. If you look around in today's society, so many people are doing jobs that they don't like to do. And the reason that is because they're too afraid of actually going after what they want to achieve. So they're stuck. They hit that brick wall and they're like, okay, I have to return back. It's getting too risky. It's getting too challenging. It's not worth my time. I have to go back and live this comfortable life that I'm used to. A lot of people have that vision, and it's difficult to see and understand for me and for many others as well why they have that idea of it not working out in their favor and it actually not being successful in their way.
Man, absolutely. Yeah, it's sad, man. It's sad. You see, most people are not living out their true life's vision.
Hmm.
Most people, right? And I believe it's because of like that analogy I gave. Is people just feel limited,
Hmm.
right? And but that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is so I can help these people break those limitations and understand that it's all fake. Like all these limitations are fake, and we all have the same ability, but are we willing to tap into it? Are we willing to grow it, to develop it, to really work it, nourish it? Or you're right, be comfortable. But it's just so
Hmm.
sad because it's all uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right? Like it's all uncomfortable. Doing the hard work, waking up early, doing everything necessary. It's uncomfortable, but us thinking that we just are going to do the bare minimum in life, work a whatever job, have a whatever life, eventually it will be uncomfortable.